Hello and welcome to Uncut, the podcast which looks at all manner of directors, actors, and stupidly obscure genres. And I get some people from the podcasting world and the film criticism world, and we talk about something from one of those little pits. This week is a director's episode, and to do this, I have been joined by Rabia. Hello there.
Hiya.
Hi, Kat. And oh, that was a delay. And Robyn.
Hello. Hi.
How are we all doing this evening?
Doing okay. The weirdly for the late night that we're currently in, I think we're only an hour apart. I'm an hour into the future. It's still light out here, so it's just been a very weird day. Sun and then rain and then sun and then storm and
Oh,
then
so
sun.
it's like that over there too. It's like that here. Every 5 minutes
Pretty
it changes.
Yeah,
Um,
it's been really weird today. It's been really rainy over where I am, and then suddenly the sun's been out. It's an odd one, and it's kind of I've been in this kind of weird liminal zone because I've been completing my second year university assignments. So time isn't really real, and neither is the outside world.
just wait until third year of university when it seems like you're doing the what's the name of the thing that you do at the end? It's so long ago. I feel old now.
Oh no, I anticipate it with dread.
Dissertation. There we go.
Yeah,
The dissertation. It feels like you're doing that for half of a year. So you got that to look forward to.
hooray!
Um, Kat, yourself?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, busy as always, but that's kind of just my default setting these days.
Yes, indeed. Same as these. So tonight we're doing something a little bit different. It's a director, Joe Dante, but instead of the usual three movies, we're going to do two, and sort of break it up in the middle with his, I think for three of the people in this room anyway, was like a very pivotal childhood thing, and that's Eerie Indiana. But bookending that is one of his all timers, Gremlins 2, and one of his last, I think, if memory serves. I know on his IMDb it says he's also working on three projects, but given how
Allegedly.
given how projects are, they could just completely vanish overnight.
I mean, the
Um,
thing with Joe Dante is he's known for announcing things that never show up. He has said this himself. Is I believe there was a film he announced last year, where it says on both his Wikipedia and IMDb page that he was doing a remake of The Little Shop of Horrors, the Corman film. It's mainly Corman remakes that he announces. Except a year after he announced this, and by the way, the year after is this year, he said, "Yeah, nah, it's gone."
it's on brand for him then, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess well, we want to finish with Gremlins too because that's the main event, really, isn't it? Because
Oh yeah.
come on now, it's Gremlins 2. So we'll start with Burying the X. So that's a sad movie, given who the leading man is.
Yeah.
But who wants to take a stab at what Burying the X is?
I mean, it feels like almost like an ode to nerds and pop culture fans, and it feels like one of the least Joe Dante films that Joe Dante has done, in my opinions. Like towards the ending, you get more of his flavor, but it first like feels like this wacky supernatural rom com, which is not too far out from the comedy that Joe Dante has done in the past, but at the same time it it feels more like a fan movie until you get closer to the ending where there's more supernatural stuff happening for me. It was fun, indeed. R.I.P. Anton Yelchin, really great talent taken from us way too soon. Very tragic. The casting in this was quite funny. I think the the main girlfriend's name, and I forget what her name is in the movie, but she was also in Twilight, I think, which is interesting. That's where I
Well,
mainly know her from.
it's the right
She's one
era,
of
so yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like I remember her as being one of the Cullens from the Twilight films, and the Dario, the second girl or the main girl lead, I guess, known from
Well,
I want to
also,
say the what's it called, the with the Greek stuff, the not Olympians, but oh
Percy
my,
Percy
Jackson.
Jackson.
Percy Jackson. Thank you. I can tell that my brain is not cooperating with me at this time of the day.
she was also famous for that thing, wasn't she, where she was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and nobody
yeah.
believed that she could possibly be 40 years old.
Oh
was-
yes,
Mhm.
yes, she was in the really, really weird one. I have to say that couldn't apply to like most of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, but specifically the one which explicitly sets up that it is a sequel to a film from the 70s, and then immediately shows her, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think with Burying the X, it's interesting because Joe Dante has this wackiness, and that's a tie back to Gremlins too for later. Is that he does like this play, and like he doesn't take the film industry as serious, and that's why he made Gremlins too. And I feel that with Burying the X, he was doing something similar. It just felt less Joe Dante flavor. It is still a good time. It is definitely an ode to any type of fan of pop culture, specifically horror, and how he views them. But yeah, it's not something I think a lot of people have on their list.
Oh, no. Kat, what are your feelings on Burying the X?
I really like it. I mean, I'm a really big fan of all of the cast. I mean, Alexandra Daddario, I will watch her in everything and anything. And the people that couldn't believe that she was 40, a character was 40 in Texas Chainsaw, well, she is 40 now, and she looks exactly the same as she did when she was in that Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. So, you know, technically, I think we can give her that. Um, I like how much of a kind of a love letter it is to LA. It kind of shows different parts of Los Angeles that we don't normally see. Um, it was rough rewatching it, and because a lot of the film is set in Hollywood forever, obviously that's where the pair of them like go on their dates and things. That is now where Anton resides. I was in LA in February, and I visited his grave, and it was just really sad to sort of like watch the film and think, oh God, like a couple of years later, he was back there again for really, really sad reasons.
Yeah, it's one of his last movies. It makes any movie of his watching it back just really difficult. Because he was about 30 when he passed, something like that.
Yeah,
Like
I
super,
mean, it was.
super young.
I hadn't caught that detail as to kind of that relevance, so that is slightly haunting in hindsight. It didn't, in that regard, it wasn't quite the kick to the stomach as in the same way as the Stephen Sommers adaptation of Odd Thomas, which kind of makes you go, oh fucking hell, that is something in hindsight. That is kind of something which makes you really think that's poignant. And this is also, in a way, inevitably, but I think part of the location stuff that I agree is really interesting, including the whole Hollywood Forever thing and the fact that those screenings are very much a real thing that happened there. And I think that's just an interesting little bit of detail. And I think it's a more interesting movie than it could have been in the hands of another director because it's interesting that this kind of wacky teen comedy coming out immediately after The Walking Dead's kind of boom in this kind of zombie phenomenon. It's interesting to see basically an old man's take on this, completely unrelated and kind of it's far more influenced for kind of the B movies of yesteryear than it is any recent zeitgeist.
Oh yeah, because they go to the New Beverly, the New Bev as they call it, which I've listened to enough American podcasts to know that's kind of like a central hub for everybody who lives there. It was a little bit weird with the movies, but yeah, I mean, one of the things that I want to talk about, it's the era that it was made, because it's kind of an ugly movie, isn't it? It's one of these digital era movies where digital cameras don't really look very good. When you usually get a Joe Dante movie, it's vibrant, and otherwise this is a very vibrant movie, but yeah, it's just all washed out and weird looking, and not in the way where people like rib on Netflix movies. It's from that era where digital just looked awful.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. That wasn't the thing that stuck out to me as ugliest about the film, because I will confess, having just watched it, I can't say I was fully a fan, partially because of the gender politics of it, but which we can get into. But it does have a bit of that. No offense to Scream 4, which I think is brilliant, a bit of that Scream 4 look.
I can't remember Scream 4, so I'll just take your
Welcome
word
the
for it.
Vaseline, Vaseline all over the lens and probably the set.
Yeah, to be honest, after Scream 1, I can't remember any of them. They're all sort of the same movie to me, which will probably upset Scream fans. I'm sorry, but they kind of are. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of these movies, I think, where like subgenres, the romantic comedies, where if it doesn't have chemistry, it kind of lives and dies on there. I think it's just got really good chemistry across the board in this. Would Rabia, Kat, would you agree on that front?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what I agree also on the little like the washout looks. Even though there are so many bright colors, like it has like this almost like it feels like this grayness to it, which works really well for Twilight movies, but not for this. But yeah, no, it really had really funny moments, and it had fun. What I liked is that it had fun with itself. I really liked the dynamic between Daddario and Yelchin in it as well. And I again, like it felt like this quirky rom-com with like a little bit of horror in there. And I'm not a rom-com person, so I'm maybe like the worst
Same.
person to ask this. But I had a good time. That's maybe rom-coms need to have horror for me to have like a really good time.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly my feeling. I am also not remotely a rom-com person, but something like this, I find myself charmed by. Just there's all of the, just as a film nerd myself, just all of the conversations that they're having. They're specifically talking about horror films together, and it's like going to a screening at Hollywood Forever just seems so cool. And I mean, I want to go to the ice cream shop. I want that ice cream shop to be real. I want to go in and get like a horror themed ice cream. And yeah, for somebody that is very anti rom-com, this is one of those films that I will happily champion as, alternate programming. It's in that Shaun of the Dead mold, but it's more the romance side, whereas Shaun of the Dead is more the zombie side. This is the flip side of that.
Yeah, I think we've buried the lead a little bit as far as the plot as well, because there was a few movies around the time that had this concept. I think there was a British one called Nina Forever, if I remember names correctly.
Yeah, and there was
Nina.
notably... Oh. Apologies. It was back to back. This was released alongside Life After Beth.
Oh, that's the
and
one,
so
yes.
the two kind of got a bit caught up at the same time, and I don't know which is the more well-remembered one of the two. I'm not certain.
6 and 2, 3 is largely the same, but for different reasons. But the concept is nerdy guy, doesn't really get on with his girlfriend because he's a movie nerd. She's very vegan. There's an instance, an inciting incident where she completely redecorates the house and folds his collector's posters, which you just don't fold. I mean, come on.
That was fucked up. Honestly, I was thinking, I hope she gets hit by a bus. She folded his, like, Mario Bava poster.
Exactly. That was that was the actual horror in the movie. Like, you take a collector's item and you damage it? How dare thee?
Yes. And she's immediately hit by a bus, which is unrealistic. A bus in America, they don't have them. And through horror shenanigans, she comes back from the dead and thinks their relationship is continuing on, even though she's rotting. So it's kind of that trying to balance having a relationship with this new girl who the minute they meet in the ice cream shop, they have insta chemistry. And this zombie, not in a sort of a brain-eating zombie, it's sort of a sentient, just a normal person, but rotting sort of zombie.
You say not brain eating. She does eat a singular brain. But to be
Eventually.
fair, he is a smelly man who comes into the apartment and starts without any prompt talking to her about the Gorgor girls. And to be fair, if you come in there and say that the best Herschel Gordon Lewis movie is anything other than The Wizard of Gore, I'd eat your brain too.
I don't know anything about that input. So I just say,
That's
I agree.
fair. I might be too close to the Alexandra Daddario character in this, I fear, in the fact that I seemingly have nothing to say dialogue-wise, other than, like, I will just yap at you about Val Lewton films.
Yes. I mean, you mentioned the gender politics earlier, Robyn, but I think you can't specifically be harsh on this one because this era of romantic comedies from sort of the turn of the century till about the last few years, gender politics was kind of rotten in these movies
You
as
say
a
that,
whole. So it's not
but
specifically this movie, it's more widespread than that.
I know, but this movie does feature the climactic point of the misogynistic brother coming back and saying, "Shut up, woman," and then stabbing her through the stomach.
I can't touch that, so I'll defer to somebody else. Rabia, Kat, any thoughts on this?
I mean, I grew up with like American Pie and stuff, so this is nothing. This is just for ducks back. I was part of that very toxic generation where, you're gay was used as a greeting and a term of endearment and everything. So I think I'm just so desensitized to any of that it doesn't really register. I'm glad that we've progressed, looking back in hindsight, but I was in that maelstrom, and that was sadly just life.
Fair.
Yeah,
Fair,
indeed.
honestly.
I've watched Van Wilder in my lifetime. Unfortunately, that is a movie that I've seen. That is in my eyelids and my brain cells. So compared to that, this was, manageable. It was not great. I felt I think the issue I had more with the Ashley Greene character, Evelyn, the girlfriend, was the fact that she was so performative, like white vegan, over the top. Because it wasn't like,
The
oh,
militant
she's,
vegan, yeah.
yeah, it was like, it's the problem that and then she did white yoga as well, so that I had more gripes with that, to be very
Which is
honest. I was like,
brilliant, because she,
white yoga. Yeah.
I like the bit where she breaks all her bones repeatedly whilst doing yoga. That's quite
Yeah.
brilliant, I think.
So yeah, no, it's interesting to look back at these things. Unfortunately, white yoga is still a thing, and you still haven't gotten rid of it. But yeah, no, I could appreciate it for what it was from its time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do wonder if it's aged more in a way where maybe it was already obvious at the time, but the more it comes on, the more you think she might be a really, really bad person.
I mean,
Yeah.
clearly, when she transformed the apartment with no regard to the stuff of her boyfriend and just decided that she needed that, it gave like these slight, very egocentric, narcissistic traits where I was like, oh, those are red flags. I
You
mean,
do-
he had red flags too. Don't get me wrong. He should have definitely have broken up with her way before anything happened. But yeah, there were red flags all around. We were just swimming in red flags.
You do wonder how the relationship came about.
Hey, around that time, there was no such thing. We didn't think of red flags or like ick as YouTube or Instagram or TikTok calls about them. It was at least it was better than the early noughties, which is the worst timeline. I'll just say anybody who's old enough to remember what passed as comedy back then, holy shit, it was the dark ages, frankly. So I think that's Rabia and Kat, that's the prism for which I look at any sort of gender or any sort of politics.
Yeah.
It's that era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's harmless. It's not great, but the era in which
Could
Russell
be
Brand
worse.
came to prominence is kind of infinitely worse than this. Yeah. So, any other thoughts before I wrap up? I'll just give everybody a turn to start if something stood out from this movie to discuss for a moment. Kat?
What I liked a lot
Rabia,
from
sorry.
the yeah, sorry. What I liked a lot was there wasn't a mechanism for how she turned into a zombie, but we get zero explanation. There's like no like magical like moment or anything of the sort. It just happened. There happened to be something that might have explained it, but we don't know for sure if that's the thing.
It's a
And I
little
kind
red,
of like the vagueness of it.
a little red demon statue, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's something
yeah.
about that. It's never ever explained.
Exactly. Yeah, and it gave off like early like be careful of what you wish for vibes, but then at the same time it was like it it had that sprinkle of obsession. I don't know if anyone's seen that one yet by Curry Barker, but yeah, it had a sprinkle of what obsession would eventually become in it.
Yeah, that looks a lot more intense, though.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, over here that's coming out Friday, I think, at the time of recording. So I will obviously, undoubtedly post somewhere about relation to that and the cinematic parallels that clearly everyone has noticed between it and Burying the Eggs. The thing I wanted to mention is the beauty of the moment where a grieving Anton Yelchin sits on the sofa watching Plan 9 from outer space and looking in this kind of forlorn sorrow at this scene, which again is slightly haunting in hindsight of watching Plan 9 from outer space, knowing about Bela Lugosi's passing, but is also just really funny in any other context.
I'm going to have that joke explained to me. I don't know what that is.
Plan 9 from outer space is a funny film. That's all.
Okay.
It's Edward.
I mean, I've seen a Glenn and Glenda of Edward's movie, and that was a mistake.
A masterpiece, I think you mean.
I was very young when I watched it, but yes. And Kat, anything stand out for you about the movie?
I was also just going to bring up the parallels between Obsession when I was watching it. There's definitely something about the Evelyn character that must, in some way, at the back of Cory Barker's thoughts, been a prototype inspiration for the character of Nikki. So there is some really interesting parallels between the two films, and I'm glad I'm not the only one that picked up on that because I thought it was just me in Obsession.
No, we were both obsessed with Obsession.
Looking forward to that one. Yeah, be double billing it with Mortal Kombat 2. I don't know which one will be the light relief of that, but it is what it is. So moving on to the filling of the Joe Dante movie sandwich, Eerie Indiana, a 20-ish episode series that I think any millennial really didn't really know who Joe Dante was from it, but sort of historically we understand that this is why we like this stuff, because I'm rambling. We're talking about Eerie Indiana. So Kat, feelings on Eerie Indiana, the series?
Well, first off, for anybody that's not watched Eerie Indiana, the synopsis is basically Marshall Teller and his family move across America to Eerie, Indiana. And Marshall begins to realize that things aren't quite right in his new hometown, and him and his new bestie Simon start investigating all of the weirdness, and kind of each episode is a monster of the week, Goosebumps-esque show that investigates all sorts of weird things, from twins being kept preserved in Tupperware called Foreverware, to dogs that can to a guy who gets a retainer that can pick up what dogs are saying, and he hears that dogs are basically planning like a mutiny on the human race. To As I think as the series progresses, it gets a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a through line. A character called Dash X, who is a teenager with premature grey hair. And there's just a lot of Danteisms in it. There's so many homages to various genres. There's a werewolf episode, and it features so many of his regulars, like Dick Miller's in an episode, John Austen's in a lot of episodes as Mr. Radford's, and yeah, I have seen Eerie, Indiana a lot of times. I have a rewatch pretty much every autumn. I know the series inside out and back to front. I just love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things for me personally why I got in any genre stuff at all, because it was part of an era of TV shows. Is this? You mentioned them before the show started. Now I've totally blanked on them.
Oh, you mean the
Somebody,
block?
somebody help me here. Somebody help me
Yeah,
here.
no worries.
The names have completely escaped me.
If you had it the same in the Netherlands as it was in the Netherlands as you in the UK, we had an afternoon block that was basically like a creepy block on Fox Kids, and it was Eerie, Indiana, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And those were the monster of the week, creepy but still like doable for kids shows. Looking back at them, they were not actually. I mean, we wouldn't maybe some of us would let our kids watch it. I would, but I'm a little bit out there, maybe.
I mean, it holds up really well.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not like
it's a great
some of
series.
these shows which you watch back and you think, I loved that as a kid. Was there something wrong with me? I'm not sure. But yeah, this. I mean, I've marathoned quite a few of them today, and they just hold up really, really well. It's really economical storytelling. It's like 20-something minutes, and they get a full arc out of some of these things. The last one I watched was, I can't remember what it's called. It's Dead Letter or something, I think the episode was called, which has a frighteningly young Tobey Maguire in it. He was like baby Tobey Maguire. And he's a ghost who's haunted a letter who needs to be delivered to a elderly woman who he would have married at one point. And it's an emotional arc, that story. And that's a story for kids as well, like talking about sorts of lost love and death. And it's bold stuff.
One of the best episodes is called Heart on a Chain, and it features Danielle Harris from the Halloween movies. And basically she's a new girl at school, and Marshall and one of his school friends are like vying for her. The other kid is a bit wilder, and he gets in an accident and dies, and she has a heart condition and she's waiting for a heart transplant, and she gets given his heart, and then she starts acting like reckless like him, but then he tries to take over too much, and then kind of like at the end, like, because he's given her a heart necklace, and at the end she puts it onto a statue, and then the statue cries again. It's really heavily emotional for a show that's aimed at, like, I don't know, like 10 to 13-year-olds. Like, it's a lot.
I should say, having sat this one out, because I'm the one person here who I'm too much of a youngster. I did not grow up with Eerie, Indiana. I was also really scaredy when I was younger, so maybe I would have grown up with it if I hadn't. But like, but the thing about this is, I'm hearing every detail you're describing, and I'm just thinking, this sounds like the greatest thing ever. You've sold me on it.
There was loads of them, though. It was just the sign of the times, really. And it was sort of the faith in kids, really. I mean, that era of kids, we just loved horrible stuff. There was like TV shows which were all about gunge, which I think died, really, as an idea.
Bring back slime.
Yeah, Pat Sharp would like that a lot, but I think that reference is going to be lost on a lot of people, unfortunately. But yes, it's just really charming, I think. It's so charming, in fact, that I've subconsciously actually wrote a script which is heavily inspired by it, and I never realised it. It seeped into my imagination that much. But it is what it is. Any Rabia, Kat, any other thoughts on this?
I just want to say, like, again, because we were making some parallels with things that came out later. For me, what I remember from Eerie, Indiana, I think it also was the bones for later series that we saw in the CW era, for instance. So things like Smallville, Roswell. Like, I think the
Yeah.
same kids that graduated, from elementary school, watching Eerie, Indiana, Goosebumps, and such, then went on being teenagers or young adults and watching these CW series where they had a similar formula, but
Oh,
then maybe
yeah.
not as, but more on more moving towards like the superhero-y, like it became softer,
I'll
but
pick
still had these bones in it.
I'll pick that baton up and it's basically Supernatural.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Which I love. I'm a massive Supernatural fan, so I mean, this is like pre-Tumblr times, obviously, like the whole, before we had the Super Hulag era. But in between Supernatural and Eerie, Indiana, you had Roswell and Smallville, and Smallville had very similar episodes, like with similar impacts, like emotional and with messages, and really trying to teach teenagers also to how to self-regulate in a way certain situations they might come across, and it's interesting to see how that then went
mm,
on to eventually
oh, yeah.
two really hot brothers,
And
and a monster in the week, a monster of the week.
there's there's another interesting episode that's not a
Yeah.
monster at all, but it's like really thoughtful for kids, really. Where there's a new AI model that's been put into ATMs, and nobody's
Mr.
using it
Teller.
except this one kid. This one kid, Simon, the friend of Marshall, is using it, and he thinks it's his friend, and it keeps on giving his
Mm.
money. And the sort of lesson of the episode is you don't have when you have money, you don't have friends. You just have people who see the money, and it's very mature for something aged at 10 to 13-year-olds, really. Because I
I
think
found
some
quite
people,
prescient as well. I think in a lot of
uh,
ways, in some
some
of the way.
people a lot older, which need to learn that lesson. But um,
Can I just say, I did not expect the visceral delight I felt of hearing the phrase "super hulock" said on this podcast episode. That was a delightful thing to experience.
You're
uh,
welcome.
I'm sorry,
I
Kat,
can say it
uh,
again.
Kat, you were
Super
going to say
Hulock.
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I was also one of those kids that did graduate to Smallville and Roswell and then Supernatural. So I think there probably is a through line there. But yeah, there's just so many good episodes. It might have only had a 19 episode run, but all of them are the bangers. There's no like, oh no, we're at this episode. There's one Zombies in PJs, I think it's called, and it's all to do with like basically the devil turns up at Mr. Radford's shop, and everybody starts they buy into consumerism, and they're literally selling their souls. He's like a lawyer for the devil, and he's taking contracts with people's souls, and they're like shopping in their sleep, racking up even more debt. Which again is teaching children, the cautionary tale about being wise with their finances. And then there's another episode, which I think was one of the last episodes, called Reality Takes a Holiday, wherein Marshall wakes up as Omri Katz, who is the actor that played him. And Eerie Indiana is a TV show, so we've got all of that sort of like postmodern self-referential stuff that so many other shows then went on to do. It was ahead of its time, and I think if anybody wants to watch it and wants to know more, I know that Becky Dark used to do a podcast on it, which I think is still available. I highly recommend seeking that out, because they kind of go episode by episode and deep dive into everything.
Yes, second that. I don't really think there's anything more to say, because without going episode by episode, it's just kind of I like this one and I like that one, but generally a very, very important series. And it's kind of a shame that it was that sort of point in the 1990s where you could make shows like that, because after that, I don't really know if there's any sort of parallels of any show that has them sort of morals. It's more placating kids, really, just keeping them quiet rather
There's
than
a
actually engaging
singular
them.
point I think I could bring up, though it is an animated series. I do wonder if it may have been a big influence on someone who would have grown up with that, Alex Hirsch, in making Gravity Falls,
Oh,
which
yes. Yeah.
is, I do wonder if there's kind of a through line to there, and I think that is, though animated, one of kind of the last remaining kind of...
Yeah, that is basically Eerie, Indiana as well. Yeah, it's very close. I'm not saying that was the first or the only thing to ever do that, but
Oh,
given that Alex Hirsch is of that era, it's a sound conclusion to come to. Yeah, but yeah, it's just stuff now which two of the four of us are parents, so I probably vouch for this. But a lot of the stuff made for kids is just to keep them quiet for 90 minutes, so you can have some peace and quiet.
There's an interesting video essay, I'll look it up on YouTube, where a few animators have come to this same conclusion, where you can tell that in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, especially the 90s, where you had, Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series, where you had X-Men, where
Let's
you
not forget
had
Don Bluth, who ruined
Oh,
everything for
Dom
all the kids.
Dom Bluth, and then who eventually even left Disney because they wouldn't allow him to do everything that he wanted to, right? He was like, okay, if you're gonna cage me in, I'm gonna break free and start my own studio. So indeed, like Don Bluth, and then you had the grimer, the darker era of Disney, and within that era, and within the in the 90s as well, you had series like Goosebumps, you had series like Are You Afraid of the Dark, you had so many Cartoon Network series that were so much scarier, and still to this day, even for adult watchers, have so much impact because they're teaching you things, they're showing you things of society in a different format. There were so many allegories that were so interesting, but they didn't hold back on the animation, on the storytelling, and on how far they took to certain things. And then it became all very washed, and once we get into the 2000s, especially in the 2010s and onwards, you get less sharper lines, you get more like bleached out stories. Everything is very cleansed and very meticulous, and according to all the censors and all the all the scary moms and whoever has been complaining, and boards and regulations. And now we have just clean media, as I almost want to call it, whereas back then you had real pop culture. And that's why for a lot of pop culture nerds among like us, we like to look back at that era, because it was the birth of so many interesting things that still lives on in a way today, but not in this more raw and raw package that it had back then. And I feel that we could still do this, but I think
Absolutely, yeah.
studios nowadays are just, and investors are just too scared to invest in things like this because it doesn't align with their values anymore.
It's all profit, and I blame all of it on Minions for all of it, and then that's all I'm going to say. It's all Minions' fault.
No, that's why it's interesting then to look at other places in the world, right? If you take away your lens from the West and focus on South
absolutely.
America, Asia especially. I mean, they haven't cut away all the fat and the meat, and they're still doing all these things in their own way. So it's interesting to then venture outside of the English spoken society, basically. Yeah.
It's good that we get some American dubs of certain things, but that's opening a can of worms I have a lot of opinions on when it comes to dubs. They're not very good.
No, they're not great, are they? Variably.
That's the short, abridged version. But anyway, that leads us to the final thing of the night, which I'm not going to ask somebody to explain this because it's impossible. But Gremlins 2.
There's a way to explain this. I would want to. If no one else wants to, I wouldn't want to let this moment go and explain what the Gremlins 2
By all means, then.
I mean, Gremlins 2, in short, is Joe Dante didn't want to make a Gremlins 2. The studios kept offering him money to make a Gremlins 2. He kept saying no. And he said, like, if you give me 5 times the amount and give me full creative license and freedom, which is unheard of at that time, especially in Hollywood, I'll do it. And they were like, bet, take our money, please. And then you get the Key and Peele sketch. I don't know if anyone saw the Key and Peele Gremlins
Absolutely.
sketch.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what happened. Put 2 words together and make yourself, just go simple. Be a simple person. Whatever 2 words you can put together, that's going to be a gremlin. Bat, gremlin, bat gremlin. Let's go. Brain, gremlin, brain, brain gremlin. Let's go. So, and then there's a lot of Trump references, which weirdly enough, to this day,
It's very thinly veiled,
because,
isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, Brian works in Clamp Tower, which is Trump Tower, because it's in New York, and it's about a rich guy who wrote a book about himself, The Art of the Deal.
And he bulldozes minority neighborhoods to build towers.
He bulldozes minority neighborhoods. He has affairs on the side with people who have certain names that kind of correlate with names that were coming out that time. It's a pop culture bomb, and in the best way. I mean that it's like an explosion of just so many things. I mean, he went from horror to satire and full comedy. I mean, after this, I think he did Looney Tunes.
Well, he did Looney Tunes with this one, to be honest, as well.
Yeah. I mean, this was a precursor to his Looney Tunes work, basically, and it's just hilarious. I mean, we have the first instance of female gremlin. I think her name was Greta Gremlin.
Greta Gremlin.
It was.
Greta Gremlin, and she's amazing. So yes, that would be how I would describe Gremlins too. A bag of money, Joe Dante just going like fuck it, and a female gremlin.
Yes.
And Trump.
I have to ask the person wearing a Gremlins t-shirt. So, Kat, what's your feelings on the second one?
So Gremlins 2 raised me. There's no getting around it. So I saw the first one when I was about 3. It's one of my earliest memories. And then I was allowed to watch Gremlins 2, and I became just obsessed. I watched it every single day for 2 years, basically the 2 reception years at school from the ages of like 4 to 6. I watched it every single day, to the point of I would tantrum if like I had a babysitter that came around once that wanted to watch the football on cable, and I was like, no, I need to watch Gremlins 2, and I had a tantrum until they put Gremlins 2 on. So this is it's a film I've seen at least 800 times, but I have continued to watch it multiple times. I've continued to watch it. I have a cat called Gizmo. Off camera, I have a life-size mohawk, which is the one with the blade that turns into the spider. Yeah, this film is just because I mean I like Gremlins, but the problem with Gremlins is it's a Christmas movie, and I'm not the biggest Christmas person. I'm a New Year's Eve baby, so Christmas is like it takes away from my birthday, and this one isn't set at Christmas, and it just like Robyn, just there's so many gremlins in it. There's the electric gremlin, there's the vegetable. Is moments of horror, like the whole scene where you see them put a mouse trap into the secretary's sandwich, and then you just hear the snap off screen, but you know what's happened, is just so disturbing. I like everything it's saying about technology, like it kind of predicted like how automated we were going to be. The whole thing about remaking, the tonight on Clamp Cable Network, Casablanca in color and with a happier ending. That's what we're doing with our films these days. It's like Joe Dante had some sort of crystal ball and just, chucked everything into this, which a lot of people write off as just this silly little comedy, but it's saying so much. And, tying back into Smallville, you've got John Glover playing Daniel Clamp, who in many ways is kind of like a prototype Lionel Luthor, who he would go on to play in Smallville. And yeah, it's just, there's so many, I feel like, the thing with the board and, all of the threads, there's so much going on in here. And, just from a basic level, you've got more Mogwais, you've got Daffy, who is the best Mogwai ever. The whole sequence where Kate is, because Kate accidentally takes him thinking it's Gizmo, and then she takes him home to feed him. I mean, anybody that has had a toddler, an overtired toddler, you've had a daffy in your life, you know. So it's like throwing stuff and just going, "I'm not Gizmo." Yeah, I'm gonna stop because I could go on forever about this film. Like I just
Yes.
love it.
Yes, Robyn, your thoughts on
Oh,
Gremlins
I'm
2?
gonna ramble too, so be warned, because Gremlins 2, I've seen it. I may have only seen it twice, I fear, but it is the ultimate Joe Dante movie. Like, some people will say, in terms of his films, they might think, oh, say Gremlins is the best, Matinee is the best. And those are fair. Those are fair. Some weirdo would say, oh, the movie Orgy is the best because they started and I watched that for 4 hours. But the thing about this one is it exemplifies everything Joe Dante is and wants to do. His Looney Tunes influences, his classic horror influences, his little bits of everything, his political satire, because he's a very political filmmaker in many ways. He works in a lot of that and everything he does. But beyond the general joy of it, and also the fact that it features not only a female gremlin, but also a gremlin who becomes female through taking cross-sex hormones, which is is best trans rep I've ever seen in a film, and I'm only half joking. But it's the
The
thing about
calves it has as well, that female gremlin. I've just got to stop.
yes,
It has killer calves. Oh my god, its workout is
incredible.
intense.
It is. I love the film, but one of the things which I wanted to pick out the most is obviously these are many of these actors that I'm about to name are kind of Joe Dante regulars, but it's great to see little appearances in this from all sorts of delightful kind of classic horror figures. Like obviously you've got Dick Miller coming back from the first one, who is a
Well,
legend
that's
in and of himself.
he's in every Joe Dante movie.
I believe so.
He
Yes.
was in Burying the Ex. That was the last thing he did before he died, like a few years later. It was very frail in that though. But please, sorry, go ahead.
I think it might be that's his last one. And in Burying the Ex, I should mention that his singular scene, he does call someone a meth head, which is phenomenal. But notably, the film also features a cameo appearance from Paul Bartel, who
Yes, it
kind of
does.
real big Corman fans will really love. And he's in one of the film's most insane scenes in which it completely tears down the fourth wall, literally, which is fascinating. And the film also features the person who may be my favorite actor of all time, Christopher Lee, who delivers every single line in the most phenomenal way ever. It's him getting mad that he's not received the proper kind of plague samples he was looking for. He says, "Oh, I've just got rabies. I've already got rabies," and it's delightful, and it's just stuff like that, and it's also amazing that he's in this, and apparently Joe Dante turned up on set and immediately Christopher Lee apologized to him for being in The Howling 2. And he says, I've ruined your classic film. I have ruined it by being in this sequel.
Oh, he was in much worse.
He
Christopher
was so
Lee.
much worse.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can't really say anything else that everybody hasn't already said. It's just one of these. I mean, when you watch a movie a certain amount of times, I can't speak for 800 at all. But when you've seen a movie a certain amount of times, I don't know, just something escapes from it. Because some movies I watched a lot when I was younger, and you watch it again and you think, yeah, this just isn't fun. But because of what happens in this, all the moving parts, the anarchy, it's one of those movies that I don't think you could ever watch enough, because it's kind of like the final 20 minutes of Cabin in the Woods, but over a feature length, where you never notice it all because there's so many things happening and so many layers they threaded throughout it, which I think is fascinating. But on a sort of filmmaking level, I don't really know how this was made, because it's so detailed. It's a marvel, really. But I imagine a lot of money helped. But
Yeah, just the death scene of the gremlins alone at the end, where they all get electrocuted, those are all handmade puppets that were individually strung together, that they were then pulling with strings to make them look like the effect of, like, the melting, crumpling, dying
yeah,
gremlins.
it's got a Wizard of Oz reference in there too when they're all melting, so it just never stops. It just never
Yeah, I
stopped.
would reckon even an Evil Dead reference in a way, because I think the special effects guy from the first movie wasn't available to do this one because he was doing his own movie, or he was doing a different movie. So they pulled in a second guy, and he was like, "Okay, can I do like all bunch of new stuff?" And Joe Dante was like, "Just blank slate, like go ahead, whatever you do, as long as there's Mogwai and there's Gremlins." And it was just so interesting to see, because I think he also worked on Evil Dead, if I'm not mistaken. So, or he did some stuff with Evil Dead. So there was some like cross pollination happening there.
I mean, if I was going to have one criticism of it, there's not enough Gizmo. Because he's barely in it. But honestly, when you lose a Gizmo, you gain like half a dozen, or more than that anyway, truly iconic creatures, which is impressive. Question though, do you think they could ever do it again? I ask that with the specific caveat to that this almost gave birth to an entire wave of movies, didn't it? The sort of the little creature movies. Critters is one. Now I'm going to completely forget any of them ever existed. Ghoulies is another one.
Spookies, which is utterly deranged.
There's loads of them. So could they go to the well for another Gremlins, do you think?
I mean, I think
there is
they're
one in the
always-
works.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, really? Okay, I never knew that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, but still, it's been on the slate on IMDb for a while, so yeah.
Is this one of these things like Akira, though? Because Akira's been planned to be made for about 20 years now. They just sort of keep on getting past.
The Gremlins 3 has been in the works for about like 3 decades, and has been on and off to the point that there is a joke about it in France's Ha before Greta Gerwig was famous, and it's kind of a known project that has been in the works for the longest time. It's been for so long that a new version of the original Gremlins has come out before that.
Yeah, I mean, it was only last year that Zach Galligan, who plays William Peltzer in the films, has confirmed that there is a third one happening and that he will be involved to some degree. So I would assume that they are pushing forward. My only concern is how they're going to do it. I mean, obviously they had, I think it was Apple had the Secret of the Mogwai animated series, which kind of delved into the Mogwai. But my only concern would be how they bring the Gremlins to life, because they're going to be expensive to do practically, and there's going to be the temptation to do them with computers. And I don't think it works. I think one of the things that I love so much about both of the Gremlins films is that you watch them as young as I did, and you think the Mogwai are real. You completely buy in 100% to those things, and you lose that magic if you then just stick a load of pixels on the screen instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's only a few which look sort of digital, and it's when Gizmo's running, and everything else. I mean, that even might be practical. I don't know. It just looks so uncanny when he does this.
I mean,
They have
lightning
stop
gremlin.
motion. Yeah, because the bat gremlin is a stop motion when it starts
I mean,
flying.
That's like a Harryhausen reference, that, isn't it? Sort of the old classic Greek mythology movies. But, yeah.
And I mean, later on, it literally turns into a gargoyle, because it starts off as a bat gremlin, then it goes through the wall, then we see an actual Batman reference, then it gets put into the cement, and then it flies up on a tower and turns into a gargoyle. So many references there. But that mostly was stop motion, yeah, because they made the puppet. I remember that in a making of that I once saw, that they made the puppets joints specifically with this type of like rubber that was very new for them, to make it be able to move its wings.
So moving to Joe Dante, just given opportunity here to mention anything else from his filmography that may have stood out that we haven't had time to do today. So just keeping it quick around the table. So Robyn, anything else from the filmography that stood out for you?
I want to quickly name drop three things. I want to mention Piranha, one of like his big Corman classics, which was again what got him hired for Gremlins to make that by Spielberg, because Spielberg said that Piranha was the best Jaws knockoff he'd ever seen. And it's got that kind of playful Looney Tunes thing to it, and it's also got Barbara Steele in it, who's like this icon of Italian horror. I'd
Yes.
like to mention The Burbs, with Tom Hanks, which I think is one of Joe Dante's greatest films. A kind of bonkers horror comedy where what's literally happening is more subdued, but the tone is manic.
Yeah,
And
but
I'd
if you
also like,
watch that movie from the perspective of not being American, it's just basically a bunch of Americans terrorize a European family,
oh
and it
yeah,
doesn't quite play the same.
no, I think that's part of kind of the nightmare of it. I think it's kind of welcome to America. Everyone's insane, and that's kind of the
Yes.
thing. And more on that note is the final thing I want to note is an episode of Masters of Horror called Homecoming, which was directed by Joe Dante, which is his satire on the post 9/11 America and the wars that started after that, in which the war dead of America come back and they're going to vote out the government. That is funny and horrifying at the same time. It is one of the sillier episodes of it, but it is the most damning kind of
Yeah,
recreation of the spirit of George Romero that I have ever seen. I think that's one of the episodes of that show that makes me think this is a master of horror, as the title says it.
I never saw that. I'll have to check it out. But moving on to Kat, anything stand out for yourself?
So, I mean, earlier we were kind of saying that there isn't really anything like Eerie Indiana anymore. There's not really anything scary kids, but then Joe Dante, um, I think around kind of the later noughties made The Hole, which is one of the most terrifying made for children movies. It's kind of like Monster House, but even more scary. It's these two brothers move into a house and there's a hole, and your worst nightmare comes out of the hole if the hole gets wind of it. So there's like clowns and their abusive dad, and yeah, it's an intense watch as a grown up. Like had I I mean I watched a lot of shit that I shouldn't have watched as a child. But like I feel like the whole might have broken me if I'd have watched it as a kid. So that's definitely one that I'm gonna work Aurora up to. Like I say, watch the house first, see how she fares with that, and then maybe the whole.
Rabia?
Oh, all my faves have already been mentioned, so I'll just pick one further down the list. I like to segment in Twilight Zone, the movie.
Mm.
That's a deep. No, it's not that deep of a cut, but maybe a deeper cut than his where he's top billing. I'm Twilight Zone, nerd overall, and I've watched all the different iterations of it, and he did a nice one as well.
I mean, I personally, I have to shout out Matinee because it's basically, it's him as a movie. It's just the John Goodman character who plays sort of like a William Castle raconteur. And there's a speech that he gives to Omri Katz, of all people, but a fully teamed up Omri Katz. And you can just feel the love of movies that you're getting in that scene with John Goodman and as his avatar. And it's just, you can have all the sort of fantastical things in the world, but that is a man who adores movies, and you get it in that character, and it's magnificent. And it also cemented it for me that John Goodman is one of America's great modern actors, and he sort of gets his due, but he doesn't really. But he sort of does, but we'll see. So just to wrap up, thoughts on Joe Dante as a director, his legacy, his position. I mean, you have mentioned that he's a master of horror, but I think he's more broad in his input than that. So, who wants to take a stab at that first to wrap up?
I mean, I would argue that he is the greatest kind of live action cartoonist of the cinema. I would argue that much. I'm a big fan of Joe Dante, and I think that he perfectly kind of combines, even though he didn't make Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he is the filmmaker who combines the sensibilities of animation and cartooning and the old Looney Tunes style of expression with live action filmmaking in the greatest and most kind of the most harmonic way of doing so.
Rabia, Kat, anything to add to that?
I think Joe Dante to me is a director who has an intense love for pop culture, and understands that he shouldn't take film or storytelling too seriously, and he didn't in the best way possible.
He got very high up in the industry by doing that too. Not many others have. And Kat, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just echo what's been said before. I think he does a really good job at marrying horror comedy and the sort of like more satire, specifically, and to the point of like something like Eerie, Indiana. Just we didn't even realize what it was satirizing until we got older. Watch it and go, oh, okay, it was doing this, and then just on a filmmaker level, he's one of those ones from that era that is really supportive of new voices. There was a film that came out around Christmas last year called The Creeps, which is basically Gremlins, but with like little like killer like snowmen, from what I remember. And Joe Dante like held the hand of the director, and he's in the film in like a little cameo role, and has like championed it on social media and stuff. And it's just nice to see that somebody of his status has no ego and is quite happy to be, helping some random independent genre filmmaker, get his vision out into the world.
Can't end it better than that, really. Where can we find people and the stuff they do? So, Rabia, yourself, where can we find you and the stuff you do?
I do a lot of different things. I write, I'm a podcaster, but if you want to find everything combined, just follow me in any socials as Rpish. That's RPISH. I'm mostly on Blue Sky, Instagram, and sometimes on TikTok. And every now and then I put out a YouTube short about some review or something. But yeah, mainly Blue Sky and Instagram, where you can find the repostings of all the other platforms that I'm on.
Kat?
I am at Gizmo. See, Gremlins. I am at Gizmo Shikari on Instagram, Letterboxd, and cathughes.bsky on cathughes.bsky.social on Blue Sky. There's links to everything. I'm primarily on the Hollywood News and Just Watch, doing think pieces and lots of lists on different tangents. I've just finished pre-screening for Fantasia, so keep your eyes out as they announce the waves of titles, because hopefully something that I watched and liked makes it through. And then I can also be found in written form on the UK release of Alison Hyman's double bill of Me and Hypochondriac. So lots of things.
Yes. And Robyn, to round us out.
Yes, you can find me as Robyn Adams on Letterboxd for my writing outside of the Geek Show, just little thoughts on films I see. You can find my writing at the Geek Show, obviously, and you can find me on socials on Blue Sky and Instagram at Real Robyn Adams. I'm also a filmmaker. You can find my work on YouTube. My channel is just Robyn Adams. That's where the stuff I direct comes out. And you can find my acting work show up in things occasionally, most notably later this year when Louise Ward's castration movie Anthology 3 Year of the Hyena comes out, which I know is some people have told me is highly anticipated, and I just filmed something for it years ago.
It's the surreal nature of filmmaking, I guess.
It is, yeah.
You've got to sit on this stuff for a long time. But myself, you can find me across social media at Uncut Robcast. And yes, until That's in. Just say what it is anyway. I think that's fair. Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky. You can find me under that username. But until next time, thank you very, very much for listening or watching or wherever you got this. So I'll see you in the next one.